There are places on earth that do not warn you before they kill you. They do not roar, shake, or burn. They remain silent, beautiful, empty, and then something invisible happens. One breath, one step, one bad decision, and it is already too late. We were taught to fear cliffs, storms, predators, and war zones. But some of the most dangerous places on the planet look calm, even safe, and that is what makes them different. They hide the threat behind still waters, open skies, abandoned streets, or landscapes so peaceful they deceive anyone. In this investigation, we will not look at famous sites only because of their danger. We are going to discover why certain places become incompatible with human life. Some are shaped by nature, others were ruined by human ambition. Some affect the mind before the body, and others remain restricted for reasons few truly understand. Each place will reveal a different form of threat, and each one leaves a deeper question. How much do we really understand about the world, and how many times do we mistake silence for safety? We begin with places that kill without touching you. In Cameroon, there is a lake that seems completely harmless. Calm water, green hills, no strange sound, no sign of danger. But in a single night, more than 1,000 people died around it without understanding what was happening. Some fell asleep, others tried to escape. None saw the threat coming. Lake Nyos was hiding an enemy beneath the surface. For years, huge amounts of carbon dioxide had built up in the depths because of volcanic activity. Then something broke the balance. The gas burst upward and rolled down the land like an invisible wave, displacing the oxygen in the air. People and animals took one final breath without knowing it. That turns certain places into something far more disturbing than a common disaster. They do not attack with fire or violence. They remove the chance to react. Your eyes do not detect it. Your ears do not warn you. Your instincts are useless, and Lake Nyos is not an isolated case. Caves, mines, and closed valleys can collect deadly gases in the same way. Places where the landscape seems motionless, but the real danger is floating all around you. If nature can hide danger like this, what comes next is even more disturbing, because some of the worst places on the planet were not created by Earth. There are cities where the danger did not end when people left. It remains there, in the soil, in the air, in the walls, waiting in silence. Places that were once normal homes and now exist as permanent warnings of what happens when human error surpasses its own consequences. Chernobyl is one of the best-known examples. After the reactor explosion, large areas were contaminated by invisible radiation. Decades later, many buildings are still standing, the trees grew back, and nature returned to some areas. At first sight, some streets look quiet. But what cannot be seen still changes the environment and limits human presence. That contrast is what feels unsettling. When damage has no color, smell, or shape, the mind reads safety where danger still exists. Something similar happens in Centralia, a town in the United States where an underground fire has burned for decades. The fire continues below the earth while the surface appears calm. These places were not born dangerous. They were transformed by decisions, technical failures, and excess confidence, and that changes the first question. It is no longer only about which places we should avoid, but what we are capable of turning uninhabitable. But there is an even stranger category. Places where the body is not the first target. There are places where nothing seems to threaten you, but after a few hours something begins to change inside you. Time distorts. Silence grows heavy, perception fails, and thoughts that once felt solid begin to break apart without any clear cause. In isolated stations of Antarctica, researchers have described psychological changes caused by months of darkness, confinement, and total separation from the rest of the world. There are no crowds, noise, or chaos, only extreme cold, closed routine, and a constant feeling of being far from everything. For some people, that is enough to disturb sleep, mood, and the ability to think clearly. Something similar happens in deep caves and environments without natural references. When the brain loses normal signals like sunlight, familiar sounds, or the passage of time, it tries to fill the void. There, errors of judgment, anxiety, and experiences difficult to explain in the moment begin to appear. That makes these places especially unsettling. They do not destroy the body first. They weaken the tool you need to escape, your mind. We usually imagine danger as something external, an animal, a storm, a toxin. But some environments turn your own perception into the main risk. And even so, there are places that remain restricted not only because of what they do to the body or the mind, but because of how little we truly know about them. There are places almost no one enters, not only because of the obvious risk, but because they remain surrounded by uneasy questions. Sites where distance, isolation, or restrictions feed a persistent doubt. If everything is clear, why do we know so little? North Sentinel Island is one of those cases. Its inhabitants have rejected outside contact for generations, and access is forbidden to protect both the community and anyone who tries to approach. From afar it looks like just another island, but it represents something rare in the modern world, a territory where outside human presence simply has no place. Something similar happens in the deepest ocean trenches. We know more about the surface of some planets than about certain zones of the seafloor. Extreme pressure, total darkness, and technical difficulty turn those places into real frontiers, not symbolic ones. They are here, on Earth, and even so remain almost out of reach. There are also sinkholes, caverns, and remote zones where exploring costs so much that many questions remain open for decades. It is not always conspiracy. Sometimes the simplest answer is that reaching, measuring, and understanding is extraordinarily difficult, and that leads to the most unexpected turn of all. Maybe the most dangerous places are not far away, hidden, or forbidden. We think of remote islands, radioactive cities, and impossible abysses when we imagine forbidden zones. But millions of people live every day inside dangers that are much closer, constant, and normalized. Places that do not seem extreme because they are part of routine. The polluted air of large cities, for example, rarely creates immediate fear. It does not have the dramatic image of a volcano or a hostile jungle, yet it can affect lungs, heart, and brain in a slow, cumulative, and silent way. The same happens with toxic rivers, unsafe buildings, urban heat waves, and spaces where daily wear exceeds what is visible. That kind of threat is harder to detect because it lives beside us. It does not require adventure to find it. It is enough to remain there. And when something harmful becomes common, the mind stops seeing it as urgent. Maybe that is why distant places obsess us. They are clear, cinematic, easy to point at on a map. Everyday risks, instead, force us to look at our own surroundings with different eyes. The places where humans should never be are not always defined by coordinates. They are defined by whatever exceeds our ability to adapt, understand, or control. Sometimes it is nature, sometimes it is ourselves. And right now, on this planet, there are still places no one has fully seen. The most unsettling part of this journey is not that deadly, unreachable, or strange places exist. What is truly unsettling is that many of them began by seeming normal. A quiet lake, a prosperous city, a scientific base, a street full of life. Danger rarely announces its arrival. That changes the way we understand the world. We were taught that threat is recognized at first sight, that what is bad makes noise, and that what is safe feels comfortable. But again and again, reality proves the opposite. There are beautiful places that kill, silent ruins that still contaminate, empty environments that alter the mind, and everyday spaces that slowly harm without drawing attention. Maybe the lesson is not only about geography, it is about perception, about how many times we trust appearances, ignore weak signals, or assume that what is common cannot be dangerous. Earth still holds zones we do not fully understand. Some will remain closed, others will be explored, and some are already around us, waiting for us to finally look at them clearly. Because the places where humans should never be are not always far away. Sometimes they are closer than we want to admit.